for joining us at the Thanks I Needed That podcast. Today we're going to be talking about something that I think we all experience in one way or another, but that's trying to be grateful in the midst of difficult circumstances.
Yeah, I think that this is something we experience a lot, but I think that framing it and having the right mindset, and then, it's difficult to have the right mindset all the time, but practicing how to have the right mindset, I think, is important. So that's part of what we're going to be discussing today.
That's right. And we have 5 key points that we want to share with you guys, maybe to have as tools to keep in your back pocket whenever you're going through these different scenarios. And we're going to start off with 1. Gratitude doesn't erase the hard stuff. As you were saying, it reframes it.
I can speak on this just a second about my experience and kind of how I see it. This is something that I actually learned at a leadership conference, but it's very simple. Essentially, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you can't. So really, it's just talking about mindset there. And, if we're talking about how we see hard stuff a lot of times, it's essentially so heavy or so unbearable that it seems like it's impossible to get through. But I think that, having that mindset probably just makes it worse, right?
Right.
So if we can really focus on the positives, which, can be hard at times, but for example, I know that I own a business and we have employees that they make deliveries, and it's hot here in Orlando, right? So
a little bit.
So obviously there's that challenge of delivering in the heat, and there's a high volume of deliveries they have to make every day. Well, when you think about the heat in combination with stairs and, traffic, and, it can be a very challenging day. But I think that, we can definitely see, and we teach this, that those that know that they're going to go out and get defeated, or it's going to be a hard day, they're going to have a really hard day. But those that actually go out and say, that they understand it's going to be a challenge, but that they're going to have a good day, they end up coming back and they had a good day. But what's the difference?
Right.
They experience the same thing.
Yeah, so it's one thing to keep in mind, of course, as we're talking about, these are difficult times. So we have to understand and admit, we're not denying that there's pain. We're not denying that there's difficulty. Like, that's not what you're doing with this. You're just trying to reframe it so that you can see something positive, grab something out of that. So what would you say your drivers do to take some positivity and reframe their mindset if they're going to have a 100-degree day, no AC in the car, they're lifting heavy boxes?
Yeah. So I think that it's the small shift in mindset of saying that there's an expectation that something is going to be hard or challenging, but again, that it's not going to affect you in a way where you're beat down and you're in a position where you can't succeed or you can't move forward. Right. And I think that is probably the big difference that I see, is that these are people that are talking about, hey, look, I know it's going to be hot today. I know it's going to rain. It's going to be terrible. But I also know that, I'm going to make the best of that circumstance, and I'm not going to let it move me to a place of being miserable. And, look, that's hard. I think that it really does come down to winning the battle of the mindset. You got to start your day right. You got to eat your Cheerios, do whatever it is, the little things that are going to move you in that direction of winning and having that positive mindset. And that's hard at first, naturally that could be something that's very far from, your typical day to day. But I think that, you got to start somewhere, but if you can do one little thing, that'll lead to the next and the next. And I think that, again, when I see the difference between the drivers, it really just comes down to they've seen the same things. They know it's going to be hard, but they also know that they can make it through it.
Right.
And they have that mindset of, that's what I'm going to do.
So really, it's not necessarily about changing the circumstances. It's about changing our perspective of how we receive those little moments and little things. Something that could be brutal, making it a little more appeasing to us.
Yeah, it's just reframing that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next point. Small wins are lifelines and not luxuries.
Yeah.
Small wins are lifelines.
How do you see this?
Well, this is something that's very basic to me. Like when you're taking the grand scheme of everything you're doing on a daily basis, you're working, you have your businesses. I'm trying to do auditions. I'm trying to do this podcast. I'm spending time with family, traveling from Savannah to Orlando, Orlando to Savannah. I'm just trying to keep track of little things that take me from point A to point B that I can enjoy. So over 10 years ago, probably around when we met, I was working 2 jobs. I was in school full time. I was in church. I was trying to balance each one of those things, and I wasn't getting a lot of sleep at all. I was kind of going from one thing to the next. Often, like I would get off early from one job to try to make it to the next one on time. And I remember being able to make it to each one of those things was just a win for me. And it would actually make me forget some other things that I had. Like my car had no AC for a long time there, if you remember that. So that same heat in Orlando, I think that's probably how I made it, because I'm just going from one to the other. I'm not spending any time thinking about the heat. It was brutal, but I was enjoying the AC at work. I was enjoying interacting with people. I was working at Disney at the time, so seeing people smile, seeing people whose dreams were coming true, little kids, they're seeing these characters that they see in the movies, and you see their smiles light up. And beyond that, I'm at church, I'm doing things that I love, and in between that, I'm seeing friends. I'm making lifelong friends like yourself and a few others as well, obviously my girlfriend down the line. But I think little things brought me to today. So little steps, you just mentioned that a little bit earlier. It's just the little wins that kind of take you to the bigger victories. Like right now in your life, you have a business, but you didn't get to that business after you just graduated college and you just owned this business. You had little things, little steps that you took that took you from point A to point D. Yeah,
absolutely. I think that, when you look at the little things and you reflect on it, that helps you realize that again, you did have a mindset of realizing the little things and it brought you to the next, and you just kind of grew from there. It actually makes, when you talked about the kids and their dreams, it makes me think of having like a childlike mindset, because when you look at kids, it doesn't have to be big wins. They get excited about the littlest things. Like I have little kids, and a cardboard box is a magical thing. Like a cardboard box comes in and it can be anything. Right. It could be a castle. It could be a car to ride on. I mean, it can be literally anything.
Yeah.
But I think that is, the world will beat you up and make you think that you have to have such a large revelation to feel like you're winning in life at times. And I think that is something that, as a kid, you don't think like that. You think the world is your playground, right, and there is just so many opportunities for you to have fun.
Right.
And I think that, again, that is really, having that mindset is being able to win in the small things and then grow from that, which is what you're talking about there.
Yeah, and I think that's something that definitely has helped me, just taking account of the little victories here and there, because we're all going through struggles in different ways in our lives, but there's always at least one thing you can look to that can bring a smile to your face.
Yeah.
The next spot is,
it's okay to start with at least thinking. That one is, I think that it's interesting, because when you think about gratitude, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it made me think about how, like, if you're really in the thick of the tough times, how do you practice gratitude? And this is interesting, because if you think about at least, I have this, or at least it's not worse, that can be applied so many times.
Yeah.
But I also think this is like the notion of, I know that I'm in a bad place, and what do I do?
Yeah.
All right, I got to think myself out of how bad this is, and in a sense, BS my way out of this. Like,
Yeah.
I have to make myself believe that I'm grateful, which I think that it's a start. I think that, again, where we have to come from is this place of understanding that life is going to life. And that may be good and bad.
Sure.
But I think that at the end of the day, the experience is that you can take away something that you learn, something that you grow from, something that helps you in the worst of times.
Yeah.
Now that again does require a big mindset shift, but this is the beginning of that. If you're really in that place of it can't get any worse, you can say, hey, at least it's not this, or at least I'm in this position to be able to do this.
Yeah, and we also understand that the difficult part is still there.
Yeah.
You're also knowing that you're starting off with just a thought, trying to convince yourself that things are okay. And maybe at first or not, maybe at first it doesn't feel genuine. Maybe you don't feel any gratitude at all. But over time, if you continue in that practice of trying to convince yourself, you may just do the job. You may just fool yourself, and you may actually start seeing that shift in your mindset and then your perspective, and it'll help you actually realize that, oh, maybe I wasn't fooling myself at all. Maybe these things were actually there, and I just happened to open my eyes to see them.
Yeah. I think that, that makes me think of fear can't exist where joy is. So if you can really put yourself in a position to resonate and believe or feel, and maybe again, you're not necessarily in that position because you're just starting and you're faking it. You're faking that you're grateful. But if you can get that momentum going to where you're actually realizing that you have those things that you can be grateful for, I think that that's a place where, regardless of what's falling or going on around you, I think that's a place where you can really begin to meditate on the things that are going well in your life, which can bring you out of that place of, okay, I'm in such a terrible place, which you can get stuck there very easily.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Where are we headed to next?
Connection fuels gratitude, even in isolation.
Yeah. I think that's something that happens to all of us at some point, where we get so enveloped in our problems that we feel alone. Even if we're in the middle of a party, that's a typical story. You're in the party filled with people, but you still feel like there's no one there. And that happens even more so when you're struggling, whether it's depression or you just lost a job, you just lost a family member. We've all been in each of those things, and I know that for me, I've had those moments where even if people are reaching out, I just don't hear it, I don't feel it, just because I'm so stuck in a dark place. But every so often, somebody will come and reach out, and whether it's a loved one or a friend, even a stranger, that'll say, hey, how are you doing? Or, hey, how's your day going? Little things that make you realize, oh, I'm not alone. There's other people here. They may be struggling as well. But everyone around you usually wants the best for you, and they want to help you. And maybe the best way for you to help yourself is to help others as well. And reach out to that connection, just so that you have somebody with you in that process, in that moment.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I think that when you surround yourself with people that want to just love on you in those times, that is something that can definitely free you of those cuffs, those handcuffs that basically lock you in that isolation, that feeling of, I just want to be away from everything because you're in a dark place, like you said. I can tell you a story for my, past, where growing up, I definitely didn't have, your typical childhood, and there were some challenging times that built some negative tendencies in my life. I think that one of the things that I struggled with for a long time was being accepted by other people and feeling like I could be me. And I think that that showed up a lot of times in the sense that throughout high school and college, I remember I had a lot of friends that would want to spend time with me and hang out, and I would go do things with them at times, and we would have great times. And they enjoyed that, so they would ask me to continue to do it. But I'd go through these seasons where I'd want to lock myself away, essentially. And I think that I was trying to portray like this fun, no caring guy where I just wanted to go out and have a great time with everybody. And they saw that and they enjoyed that, but that wasn't me. And I felt uncomfortable. So what I would do is I would lock myself away and say, I'm just going to be me, which I thought I was this person that had to be isolated because that's the only time I felt free. But after several years of dealing with that, I ended up getting some help and, learned that it is really important to have friendships and to have genuine connection. And I think that I learned how to be comfortable as myself with other people. And, now I have really great friends. Again, I had people that would call me their friend back in the day. And I was like, we are friends, but you're not going to see me. I'm not going to, if you ask me to hang out, maybe not, I might be more comfortable just sitting in my room. And I knew that wasn't genuine, that wasn't real friendship. That wasn't supposed to be how it was supposed to be. But again, meeting people like yourself and then other friends that I've grown a true connection with, it really has lifted my soul. And now I think that I am in this place where I feel just this genuine gratitude about the connections, the life that I live, the conversations that I have, the people that are supporting me and lifting me up. And, that's something that can't be replaced. I think, looking back, there were so many years that I passed up on those opportunities, but now knowing what I do know, I'm so grateful that, I have that perspective of seeing that, isolation definitely is not going to create opportunities for gratitude. If anything, it shuns them. Yeah. But, putting yourself around the right people will just enhance that experience tenfold.
How would you go about putting yourself in that situation where you can make these connections and actually strengthen them to the point when you need somebody, you have somebody you can trust?
Yeah, I think that's tough. I think that the first thing that I had to do was I had to find somebody that told me, hey, it's okay to be you and to be flawed and to feel like you can express that.
Have you found that?
Well, yes. My wife is unbelievable, and she has helped me through so much of that. But I also think that counseling has also helped. There's so many avenues. I think that the first thing though is looking inward and finding out what are those demons that are basically creating this darkness or this outlook that makes you feel like isolation is the solution. Right. And then once you do that, finding a way to build a community, go out and again, find someone that you can find a genuine connection with, friend, family. It could be, it doesn't have to be you're going out and putting yourself in uncomfortable situations. You probably have family members or, absolutely. Someone that even has a hobby or somewhere that you can go where there's a commonality that you can connect with, and you can, again, start to build those genuine friendships. For me, I think that was a lot easier once again I looked inward and fixed all of those issues, and they're not all gone. I think that the tendencies when, again, you grow up most of your life thinking that you're a certain way, right, they tend to want to come back, right? So you're having to beat those back all the time. But I think that once you realize, again, that is the tendency you have, you try to reach out to other people that you've maybe built those connections with. That's the great part about having friendships like that, is that they can make you realize, okay, you're you're not what you think you are.
Right.
You're better, you're bigger than that, and we're going to support you through that. So it's so important.
Well said. Which leads us to our last point, which is that gratitude can be retroactive. Look back to move forward. And I think that's something that happens to all of us. Again, that we're going through difficult times, difficult situations, and we don't necessarily see what we can be grateful for at the time. But years pass and you look back on a difficult time and you're like, wow, I'm actually really grateful that that bad thing happened to me, because it helped me. It helped me grow. It helped me become a better person, a better human. And if it wasn't for that, maybe I would be a very different person today.
Yeah.
I imagine you have.
Yeah, I tell these stories a lot. I think I have several experiences like this, but if I look back at just my career, there were several jobs where I thought that, okay, this is the perfect opportunity, and then they just didn't work out for some reason. There was one where I was working in a medical office, had the perfect job that I thought that I wanted at that moment in sales, and the position ended up folding up. The practice folded up, so that didn't work out, and I fell in hard times economically. So I couldn't afford rent. I got kicked out, and I was like at the end of my ropes trying to figure out what I was going to do. But I do remember that I had a friend that offered me an opportunity with a logistics company, and I didn't know anything about logistics. It didn't seem like the right opportunity for me, but I needed money so badly. It was like, okay, I need to do this. And I just remember going into it reluctantly. Well, it turned out to be a really great experience. I got some really great experience from it, but that actually led me to finding an opportunity to start a business, which is what I have now, in the logistics industry. Now, I just look at that and I say, I had to fall on the tough times and lose the job that I wanted, the perfect job I thought at that time. I had to go through the struggle of really having no other options, being broke, and then being forced, in a sense, what I felt like being forced into this opportunity in logistics. And then that led to such a blessing of me opening my own business. And now we've had a business for several years that's very successful. But to look at that path, again, if I looked back and felt what I felt in the moment of losing that job and then going through the financial crisis that I had, it was terrible. There was no way out. I didn't feel gratitude in that moment. But I do think that, again, there's so many moments that are like that in life where you have very difficult circumstances turn into blessings and opportunities to grow from and to look back and reflect on and say, wow, that was actually perfect.
I have one memory that comes to mind with this. Back in 2017, I visited Puerto Rico and I stayed there for a few months. And in one of those weeks, I was staying with my grandparents from my father's side. And I was having a conversation with my grandmother. And I'm not sure how it got into this, but she was asking, or she was really feeling regret for not being able to help my mom and my stepdad and my siblings during a time when we were staying with my mom's parents. I was probably around 5 or 6, and we were all in a small house. We were all staying in a small room. It was probably my parents and 2 other of my siblings at the time and myself. And I guess she came one day, she visited, and she left, and she was crying and tearing up, and she was sharing this with me, and she started crying in the moment. But in my mind, as that's happening, I'm thinking, I don't understand why you felt that way. Because to me, even back then, that was probably one of the happiest memories for me as a kid, because I'm there with all my family. We're all in the same room, and it plays into what you were saying earlier about your kids. Like the little things can make them so happy. Yeah. And I think to me that was one of the best times of my life. Yeah. I'm with my grandparents. I'm with my family. I get to go outside and be with my childhood friends. Like, it was just perfect. but it was something where I had to look back on that because I didn't even remember it.
Yeah.
But she brought it into my attention in a way that was more regretful on her end. She felt pretty poorly about that, but I don't understand. I still don't understand what. I guess I get it. But as a kid, I loved that. And maybe my parents were struggling because they had just moved back from the States to then try to get jobs and take care of their family. It was probably a struggle, but I don't think I, as a kid, really understood that struggle. So to me, even looking back, it's just a happy time that even today, as you know, my family's spread everywhere. So those moments when we can be together, I cherish them, and I think even retroactively, I really appreciate that. I guess it's a little bit different because it's not something that necessarily led me to anywhere, but it's just a moment that I can look back on and be grateful that it happened.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that is a lesson in life. I think that, you know, as you were reflecting on that, it resonated with me in a way where, you know, I think about the hustle and the bustle of what it is that I want to accomplish in life for my family, and the expectation of that, and the weight of trying to carry that that goal to fruition. And I think that you know, a lot of times it can feel like there has to be more, but I think that that is such a lie to my soul, in the sense that my kids and my family, we're so blessed. And to look at the future and lose sight of that moment, or the present, I think it is, there's a lot to learn from that, what you said. You know, I think that, you know, we keep going back to kids, but I just think it's so beautiful that they don't need the luxuries.
Yeah.
They just need to be loved. Yeah, and share beautiful love. And I think that that is such a beautiful lesson in life. So, you know, it's great that you reflect on that. I think, again, that was something that I got a lot from. So thank you for sharing that.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah. And there's a beautiful quote that I think puts everything into perspective. I'm not sure who said it. I have it somewhere. But it says that life can only be understood backwards, but can only be lived forward.
Oh, that is nice.
You know, there's not much to add to that.
Yeah.
I think with the entire conversation we've had, it kind of gives you the full meaning of that.
Yeah, I think that is beautiful. I think that, you know, to look at life backwards, you can reflect on it, but for sure, when you look at life forwards, you don't know what's going to happen. And I think that is the beauty of life, right? Like, expect the unexpected, because it's going to happen, right? Mm-hmm. I wish we could predict the future in some senses, but then it wouldn't be life, you know? Exactly. I think that there's another perspective of, like, what will happen. Is it good or is it bad? And I think that there's a parable of the farmer which talks about this, but to not go too deep into it, there's a story of how Tiger Woods, he was up for the finals of the tour or something like that.
Masters, maybe.
The Masters, yeah. And he had a terrible shot for the win. It was one of the last holes. He hit a terrible shot, and it landed in the bunker. I'm trying to recall the story. It landed in the bunker, and everybody had wrote him off, and he, I'm sure, had wrote himself off in a sense. But to be able to stand there and say, this is neither good nor bad, how difficult would that be? He's probably thinking, this is terrible. But then, you know, and probably one of the most memorable moments of sports history, the next shot he hits a great bunker shot, and it rolls up to the edge of the hole. And I think that this is interesting because I'm kind of paraphrasing a story that I heard, but basically they talk about how when the ball is rolling, It's basically one of the best sponsorship moments of all time. It's a Nike golf ball that he hits. It rolls right up to the edge of the cup and it stops in front of the camera. They're looking at this ball and the Nike logo rolls directly in front of the camera so that it's showing there. It looks like it's not going to go in the hole and then it drops in and he wins.
Wow.
So, that's one of the greatest moments, defining moments of his career, probably.
Yeah.
But I think that, again, that just goes into, you look back and you reflect on it, and now he can say that is the greatest moment of my life. But if he were looking forward in that moment where he hit it in the bunker, he's saying, this is the worst moment of my life. So you never know, again, what will happen from moment to moment, and the worst moment can lead you to the best moment of your life.
No one really has everything figured out, but the people that share those stories are people who probably push themselves to the max, and even in their perspective. So Tiger Woods has tremendous talent. He has tremendous skills that he's sharpened over time, but I'm sure mentally he gets to those places where he can probably shift his perspective in the moment to say, I'm good.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And again, I'm saying this from my perspective, thinking, maybe he was like, this is the worst moment of my life, but maybe
that's what we would all think outside of that. Yeah.
Because of the practice. And again, this is something that I'm sure the professionals that are at that elite level, they have to have that mindset where the very next moment is their opportunity to shine, when the bad, they had a bad shot or something like that. And maybe that's exactly what was going through his head. I believe that now is like, he just felt like, oh, I have this in the bag. It's okay.
That's just something to keep in mind. It's a tool to keep in your back pocket, all of these 5 things, because we need to get to that point where we're standing in front of the tee and we ourselves say, we got this. In whatever way that is. If we're going through a struggle, we got this.
Yeah.
If we see something potentially coming ahead, it's good to prepare for it, of course, but you don't always have time to prepare it. Things just happen.
Yeah.
As you said earlier, life is gonna life.
Yeah.
So when you have these things in mind, though, you can shift your mind. You can start thinking, maybe fool yourself for a little bit until you get to that point where you know without a shadow of a doubt that you do have this.
Well said. Yeah.
Well,
I agree. Yeah, definitely. I think that this is all about perspective. You have 5 great points here that hopefully shed light on how you can see gratitude in those tough moments. But I think that this has made an impact on me.
Likewise.
I'm talking about this and we're experiencing this together. But hopefully this is something that also has touched you and something that you can reflect on in a way where it impacts your life for the better. So, I think that this is one of, again, many episodes that we'll be touching on. Obviously, we're a new podcast and we love to be able to share these things with you. But hopefully at the end of the day, this is an opportunity for us to create a positive message for the world and share gratitude in a way where maybe you haven't heard these things before. So that's what we're hoping for. But if you like this content, please like, share, subscribe, comment. We would love to hear your feedback on any of these comments that we've made today. And again, we thank you for watching.
And join our weekly challenge as well. We do want to hear directly from you. And thank you simply for watching.